practice with, once the agendas go out, how many questions do you want between then and the council?
As many as council needs to answer. But I all of staff feel your pain because the local government, the way the rules and regulations are very, very constrained, and we sometimes expect that you know as much as we do, just because that's just the nature. Like the planning stuff on last Monday was an example where the planners, it's second nature what the difference between an OCD and a zoning. I was explaining to them that it's different when you're in your shoes and you're in front of the public and you're trying to understand what's going on. So there's always going to be those kind of gaps. They aren't done on purpose to try and corner you, and more feedback you can give us. And if you're ever not comfortable making a decision, then don't make one and ask for time.
And I think the other thing is, your council meetings, as I've watched them, they're quite formal, right? And so there's a lot of pressure on you, I think. But I just think, to the extent you can do this, you ought not to be afraid to say, you know what, I just don't understand what this discussion is about, or I just don't. Can you take a few minutes and explain this to me? I mean, you just ought not to be afraid of that, even though it's really in the real world, it's hard to do that, to confess that you really don't know something.
So what I would suggest, though, what I would encourage you, so the questions at council, especially when you're asking for clarification, tends to then turn into council versus staff about whether it's right or wrong. And if you can then turn to each other and then debate, because it's not that it's black and white, and there's always values that are applied to our regulations, but you need to debate that amongst yourself, not with staff, because our values are black and white in some respects.
So Tim, can you talk for a couple of minutes about when you say you would take as many questions as there are about the agenda items? So what does that mean? What kind of questions? So this isn't an opportunity for the councillors to come and debate with you the item, but there are questions for information or clarification or.
Definitely be about clarifying if there's information missing and if there's any fatal flaws that they believe are inherent in the information, and I would want to respond to all of council, not just to the one councillor, so that everyone has the same information, and then not have council then debate the application behind, because that's advancing the decision making. But just individual questions about what the report's saying and the information is perfectly fine.
Yeah. So these are questions for information, clarification, explanation. That would potentially help the discussion at the council table. So if you feel that there's some missing piece of information that you can alert Ted to, then you bring it to the council table and be there for the discussion. Right? So that's different than calling Ted and arguing with him about the item, right?
Just a bit off topic, but Ted mentioned debate with each other and so on, and the staff council thing just tweaked in my head that, remember we discussed changing the council chambers? Now you see how we're discussing things here? I don't even know those people there. And now you line us up in a line like we are at council. It's a totally different ballgame. We're talking to them now. I still say we've got to change that. It's off topic.
There's a big push for representative democracy in some way, and I really think that that's not the way to go. Democracy is you're elected to make decisions and debate amongst yourself. The crowd is there to witness how democracy is working, not to be part of it. So that whether you address them, that's wrong. Whether they shout things, that's wrong. And that's why the whole question period things come up about should they be involved at the beginning to give the information, or should they be involved at the end to comment on what you said? Democracy is about you governing the city.
Yeah, the other thing too, though, in the part of this, and I've read some of the coverage of this issue in the procedure bylaw, so I think I understand the concerns, and I think they're legitimate concerns, but in the way local government works these days, there is generally lots and lots of opportunity for the public to voice their point of view before an item gets to council meeting. So no doubt you have endless public open houses, and consultations, and community meetings, and public hearings so that all those opportunities for public input, surveys, and, you know, my suspicion is that the NILO does this very well. Lots and lots of opportunity for public input. And really, at the end of the day, the council meeting is almost the very final step in a very long public input process. For example, if you are, you just think of the process that an official community plan goes through before it reaches the council table for final reading, right? It's probably 2 years. 2 years of public consultation. The council meeting is not the place for the public input. The council meeting is the place for the decision. You have had all your input for probably 2 years. And that's, I would suspect, most of your decisions are like that. By the time they reach the actual council meeting, you've done your public consultation process, because everybody already knows that council meetings are the worst place to get public input. I mean, they are the worst, right? It's formal, people are intimidated, they don't want to speak at a microphone, they're on camera, right? There could be a worse place. So you really want to do all your public consultation before then. I mean, there are exceptions to that, but
I disagree.
okay.
When you have a public process, whether it be the strategic plan or the development of the official community plan, all of that stuff, you'll get reports back that say that, 400 people involved, citizens involved themselves in this process. It may be that there were 3 meetings held and 133 people showed up at every meeting, and they were all the same people. So really, the community has not had,
Because they haven't had the opportunity.
While they've had the opportunity, they may not have availed themselves to that. However, there's going to be things that are going to happen within the community that, one line in there or one portion of a 50-page document may have 2 references to something. 4 years later, it comes out and boom, we're doing something that has a direct impact on a large area in the community.
Yep.
And none of those people attended
Yep.
the OCP.
Yep.
It's buried in a document somewhere.
Yep.
So, there's going to be cases where you need to say, you know what, notwithstanding the fact that this has been buried in the OCP
Yes.
for 5 years,
Yep.
it's now going to affect some people in the community. Maybe what we should do is, rather than try and ram this thing through,
Yes.
because we've all accepted it 5 years ago,
Yes.
we should alert the neighborhood that
Yes.
this is what's going to come down.
Yeah. I absolutely agree with you. So how I would handle that, and I think that's a perfect example of it, because that's exactly what happens with passive OCP. It's got all this stuff buried in it, nobody knows what's going on. So it comes to your attention that an item is going to have an impact, right? And let's say that it's not something that would naturally spin out a public process like rezoning or something. And so it comes to council's attention. So what my suggestion would be is to more or less what you've suggested is go, whoa, okay, we want to hear from this group of people, or we want to hear from this area. We will ask staff to go and figure out how might we do that best. Probably have an open house or something in the community, not at the council meeting, right? So you might hear